The CEO of Zillow is out, and who's the better mascot, Gritty or the Philly Phanatic? Watch us now. I'm Tom Toole. She's Jess Lion. This is Toole Time, and we've got some very interesting topics today, some stuff going down in the real estate world. Gary Vee responds to all the haters out there about home ownership. But we're going to start off with something a little more fun, inspired by the Stadium Series this weekend. I don't know if you watched. I didn't because I'm not a hockey fan.
Okay.
Two dueling mascots right now, the Philly Phanatic, the iconic, the classic one, or the new hot up-and-comer Gritty from the Philadelphia Flyers. Who's the better mascot?
Well, first, I want to say that I think that Gritty is the perfect mascot for a hockey team. He, represents what a hockey player looks like in my mind. Very rough-looking, a little crazy, a lot of hair. I don't know why that comes to my mind for some reason.
He does have a lot of hair.
He's kind of scary. I think that, more kid-friendly. The Phanatic's been around for 40-plus years. And I like the Phanatic. I'm a Phanatic girl. I like the way he dances with his belly. But yeah, I'm not a hockey girl at all. So down with Gritty, up with Philly Phanatic.
The Philly Phanatic is definitely more iconic. And what I will say is that when Gritty came onto the scene back in September, he was the number 9 Google search for a solid 2 weeks. He also made my daughter cry.
That picture is horrifying.
Well, yeah, the memes and stuff are just out of control. From a pure humor standpoint, I cannot get enough of Gritty. A couple of my friends, we text each other memes.
Yeah.
There was, Christmas movies with him involved in them and, all these pictures. They're hysterical. What I will say is he made my daughter cry when she saw him at the Adventure Aquarium during a Flyers pep rally, so maybe not as kid-friendly there.
That's just not what your mascot's supposed to do, make you cry.
She also cries at Chuck E. Cheese, so I don't know if that's the be-all, end-all here. So then I did a little digging on the Phanatic because it's easy. Gritty's hot. He's new.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best late-night parodies I've ever seen, or late-night segments, was on the Conan O'Brien show.
Mm-hmm.
And this had to be almost 20 years ago, where the Philly Phanatic was caught sleeping with Mrs. Met, and it was hysterical. It was ridiculous. And this is when Conan was on at 12:30, and he was actually fun to watch, and he didn't have the whole can show. Now it's way better that he's on TBS. So I thought about that, and then I saw Gritty was on Conan. Not as good of a segment. Also,
I think he's fun. I think he's this kind of pops in my head. I think he's the Delco mascot. I don't know why. Obviously, he's for Philly, but he ran through the stadium streaking, and they kicked him out.
Yes, that was where I was going next. Yeah,
I think he's very he's relatable. I feel like anybody from Delco would definitely do that too.
So we went to the Sixers game on Saturday at 1, and then the Stadium Series was that night, and there was a guy dressed up as Gritty. So I've never seen that from the Phanatic. What I will say is there was a couple years ago. Jack Nicholson was at the Phillies game. So the Phanatic came out in a Batman costume. And he's very versatile. He's the classic. He's the icon. Gritty's got a long way to go to get to Phanatic level. But from entertainment and from maybe an adult perspective, which maybe isn't really what the goal of the mascot is, Gritty's hysterical, but I go to the iconic Phanatic every time.
I'm with you on that one. Phanatic's classy. Gritty's Gritty.
Yeah, well, maybe he's a Philly guy. The big conversation there. So looks like we agree on that one there.
Yeah,
I don't think there's much of a conversation, but Gritty is very hot right now. So we'll see if it keeps up. I think that's probably
I think you will.
I think that's the question here. So let's get into the meat of the show here. What I really want to talk about, I'm really interested in this topic, is that on the 21st, so last week, Zillow CEO Spencer Rascoff stepped down. Co-founder Rich Barton is taking over as CEO. So there's a lot of layers to this here. So what does this mean for Zillow? What does this mean for real estate? What does it mean for agents? I've got some insight here, but Jess, you lead it off.
So as Rascoff is stepping down as CEO, and then Zillow's going through this change, I was reading up on it, going through more towards a direction of buying and selling homes, which I think is pretty interesting. And I was reading that a lot of people are comparing it to what Netflix did to DVDs and what it is now for streaming and TV and everything like that and movies. And I think it's kind of exciting. It makes me a little bit nervous, honestly, because, I was reading into what they've been doing since like April of last year, and they have been.
We're laughing because Val just fell over into a box behind the scenes here doing some social media.
I couldn't keep a
live
straight
TV
face.
or live video,
It's
whatever
okay,
it is.
Val. But yeah, so in April of 2018, Zillow started, this thing where they were buying up properties, and I think it's really right now only like investing. They want to like buy, flip, and sell again within 90 days. I think if that's the direction Zillow's going, I think it's going to be a huge game changer for real estate. What do you think?
So there's a couple layers here. One, they're definitely extending the arms of their business. What they're doing there is they're not acting like anybody else. I don't really get too concerned about the fix and flip from a real estate agent's perspective because there's not a lot of money in that to begin with. I mean, they're putting in low amounts, and the instant offer, the instant offer program, just to give everyone some perspective here, is in certain markets. Arizona is one of them. It's also down in Florida right now, in Orlando, I believe. What they have the ability to do is you list your home as an instant offer. You get offers from real investors. Now, these offers probably aren't going to be as good as what you would get on the open market. I mean, that's clear. For some people, that's not really what's most important to them. They want a clean sale that's fast. So Zillow's acting like anybody else in the real estate market. That thing doesn't concern me too much. What I see the big change here is when you look at Premier Agent. So Premier Agent, it's a pay-to-play thing. We're Premier Agents at our team here. We get better advertising for our sellers. We get to be the point of contact for them. So there's a lot of benefits to the consumer there when you hire a Premier Agent. What has changed is the way they... This is really funny because Zillow's calling us right now. I'm going to let someone on the team get this one. So what's happened is that the timing on that's unreal. So what happens is they would normally email you the lead. So I'm at a Tom Ferry Team Plus event, and this is all public knowledge now. This was back in the fall, and Greg Schwartz is there, their president, and we hadn't launched yet for Premier Agent for the newest iteration, whatever they're calling it. So they stopped emailing the leads, and they started doing a direct phone call because less than 50% of the people that went on to Zillow actually got a call back from agents. So knowing what other agents do, it doesn't surprise me. We have a Ring Central thing here where it goes out to everyone on the team. So that's, me not picking up the phone there is not what they're talking about, but rather people weren't getting a call back ever, not at all. And that's a big challenge with realtors. So what Zillow decided to do is instead of emailing that information, they're doing a live connection where if you don't pick up within 20 seconds or less, they go to somebody else and they do all the pre-qualifying. So that was a major change. And there's been a lot of pushback. Greg was standing up in the front of this room and getting berated by other team leaders.
I'm sure it was heated in there.
It was. Then they kind of changed the program a little bit. We were the last market to launch. We didn't launch until November. So Zillow's had a major change in their business. And the backbone of their business is the agent advertising. That's where most of their revenue comes from. So that to me is a very clear indication that maybe things are changing and they're a little rocky for Zillow right now. What I'll also say is for the stockholders, this is pretty exciting news. So let me pull up the stock price here because this dropped on the 21st. And on the 21st, the stock price of Zillow that day was around $34. Today, and we're filming this the beginning of the week, stock is up to $44.44. That's a 24% increase for stock owners. I am clear that this is way more than a $42, $44 stock. Zillow is they have $1 billion in the bank. They're a great company in that regard, very healthy financially. What I see here is maybe they needed some more direction because they made all these changes and the stock really wasn't responding. So obviously Wall Street thinks this is a good move.
I think it's been a great move. Just experiencing it so far. I feel like a lot more business. It's just so much more consumer friendly. A lot more business is being done even on our end. They weren't getting emails back. They weren't getting calls back. The clients, things like that. They call in now and you can talk to them immediately and have a great conversation with people who actually need your help right away. There's just more business being done, I feel like.
We've gotten about the same amount of inquiries that we normally have when you chart the data. What I will say and what I'm clear on is this is not how this is going to end up with Zillow. Where they are going, and I'm pretty clear on this, is it's not going to be, hey, what's your spend per month? how many leads are you getting. It's going to be, hey, you want this lead? You're going to have to pay us a 30 or 35% referral fee, and there's going to be no upfront costs. So that's where the change is going here. So if you're an agent out there thinking about this or looking into Zillow, one, you better know your numbers and know what kind of return on investment you're getting, and two, be ready to pivot if you have to, because that's a big change in the cost a lot of times, because there's people like us that outperform the ad spend or the investment there. Not a lot of people are doing that because they don't have the systems or the team in place. So what I would say is this is another key move that I see from Zillow, meaning that agents shouldn't be overly reliant on the Zillow leads to begin with. Anytime your business is over leveraged like that, that's a problem. But it tells me they're continuing to go in this direction, and they feel like this new the co-founder Rich Barton, who has started a lot of other companies, and he was CEO previously for about a decade. It tells me they're going back to their original leadership to get them through this, because these are some major changes that are going to ultimately help Zillow. That's why you install a new CEO, and that's why they're a publicly traded company. So the writing's on the wall here, what's going to happen. I'm pretty clear on that. But it's good news for the stockholders. I give them a thumbs up.
Buy some Zillow stock.
Well, it might be too late now that it's already up 24%. We'll see what happens. All right, topic number 3. So Gary Vaynerchuk took a lot of heat about "I'm pissed I own a home" comments that he had. He's come out with
American dream is dead.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, we'll get into this here in a second. So he came out with a lot of responses. Specifically, there was a blog post that came out, which I've got right here, and then he did a video. He's been fielding like all kinds of calls from people within the industry about this. So let me go over the response real quickly, and I'll just a couple cliff notes here from the 18-minute video that he did, and then we can talk about it. So specifically, he was talking about people in their 20s or 30s who put too much money into their home and didn't have enough liquid cash if they're entrepreneurs. That was the key there. This is not for someone who wants to work in a job, build wealth long term. This was someone that wants to build a business quick and needs that money for something else. That's who he was talking about. And he was very clear that the micro clip was the miss, that there was no context around it. Because then afterwards, they were talking about how you shouldn't go to college. I mean, this was like quick hit on this video clip that dropped a couple weeks ago. What do you think about his response?
I think that, I mean, he definitely contextualized it, and it made it pretty clear. It was basically what I was saying on the last show, that you really need to look at what your plans are. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're starting a business, you have to really sit down and think, okay, I have $200,000. Am I going to put this into buying a house, or am I going to put this into buying, starting up my business? For like me and Rich, for example, he wants to start his restaurant business in a few years.
Who's Rich? Let's give some people some context so we don't fall in the same trap that Gary did.
The new CEO of Zillow.
No, Rich.
I know, I'm joking.
Okay.
He's my husband. Rich Lion is my husband, and he actually is the manager at Bonefish all the way in Egg Harbor. But in a few years, he does plan to start his own restaurant. So you really do have to look at it. Do we want to put that money into starting up that restaurant, or, getting a mortgage and buying a home?
Yeah, so the context that he put in play there, and I feel like we understood this pretty well. I don't think there was a miss there on our part. Then people try to leverage what Gary's saying and get more
followers.
Yeah, get more followers on Twitter
For sure.
or whatever. So that was kind of what I saw as some of the comments that were out there. What I will say is that if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to start a business, you need to put everything you've got into that business, no matter what. I mean, I've done that, so I can confidently say, like, you need to cut back your spending instead of being over leveraged and buying some ridiculous home where you put all your money into it. And there's a lot of people that do that because they're at a certain part in their career where they're stable, they're making enough money, they know that, okay, now's the time for me to buy this house, so I don't have to move again in 20 years. So I get all that. And what he's talking about is if you want to start a business or you want to be an entrepreneur, and the miss on his part was the micro clip. And what I love about Gary is that he was cause in the matter here, meaning he said, hey, this is on me. It's my bad.
He owned it.
And he responded to it. And because they were talking about the Agent 2021 conference. Like, I've been to that conference, got a lot of value out of it. He's not out there saying, don't buy houses. He's saying you need to understand your financial position if you want to start a business. Then he talked about college and that sort of stuff. And I mean, college, that's a big topic right now for a lot of people. Much more in debate than home ownership because, like, I didn't need to go to college to become a real estate agent. I did, but that doesn't mean I needed to. It gave me some good experience, but it wasn't. I could have. I was licensed before I even graduated.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I feel like more often than not, people are going to school for the wrong thing, just going right out of high school. They don't know what they're doing. Wait a little bit,
So
take the time.
Someone very close to me was a history major. Then he bartended for 6 years after he got out. And then he went back to school to become an occupational therapist. So what in the hell does a history degree have to do with anything like that? Now, going to business school or something else, much more specialized nursing school, if you're going to go to culinary school, there's so many specialized ways to educate. And so the point is perspective, because it doesn't always make sense for one person, but it could for 95 others. And just because Gary Vaynerchuk said this doesn't mean it's true.
He says that. He's like, I'm one guy. It's my opinion. You don't have to follow what I say. Like, he's like, I don't think I'm going to have that much of an impact on like all the people who are buying homes. Well, and maybe he might.
A lot of people don't know who he is. That's the reality. Just because we do doesn't mean that everyone else does. And, I saw something the Broke Agent did, which if you, Broke Agent is hysterical real estate agent humor. It's at the Broke Agent on Instagram. And he did a live story. He said, well, what are we going to do? Gary Vee said this. The world is, and that was a really good play on it because people weren't understanding what was going on. So, I made it very clear. I don't have an issue with it. I think you need to evaluate your goals individually, which we tell everyone anyway.
Absolutely.
Right? So I don't think it's anything different than what agents are telling people. All right, topic number 4, the motivational section, and this comes from John Maxwell, who, to me, he's been around for a while, but I feel like his profile has really escalated over the past couple years. We've read a bunch of his books. So the quote is, life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it.
I think that when I hear this, it's telling me that I don't control most things, but what I do control is how I handle them, how I react to that. And just giving it like an example at work, say you're negotiating with an agent and they're, upset with, what you come back with, and they start, saying things that you don't like, and then you give a bad reaction to that and the deal blows up. That's all because of your reaction. Or if you just, take the other route, you just state the facts, this is this, don't get your temper heated or anything like that, you save the deal. Like, that's all because of a reaction. At home, a home example I can give is, you're arguing with someone or something and you start yelling. I'm not saying that this happened to me, but
sure.
Rat. You start yelling at each other and you don't really get the message across, where if you just calmly speak, hey, I didn't like this, or I would prefer if you told me this, you'll communicate better, number one, and you'll get a better result. So I think I'm pretty good at this, and I feel like it definitely is all reaction. That's how your whole life is shaped, how you react to things.
There is no question that when you go through any day, there's going to be things that happen you have zero control over. And it's really about how do you react to it. Are you going to flip your lid? Are you going to get all hot-headed, freak out? Are you going to take it in stride? Are you going to realize it may not be that big of an emergency and you don't have to make a decision right away? I'm all in with what you're saying here. To me, what's clear is that you need to focus on what you can control, because that's what's going to change your path. Whether it's, I use the getting in shape example because it's such an easy one. Yeah, if you can say you have bad genetics, but that doesn't mean, like, if you're going to sit on your ass all day and not do anything and not work out,
bad knees.
That's how you're reacting to it, right? Like, that's not what's happening to you. The bad genetics are what happened. So, that's one example. Another one is when it comes to, our job here as salespeople and as realtors, there's such a fundamental cause in the matter mentality, meaning it is really up to you at the end of the day how, like, successful you want to be, like what kind of work you're going to put in. So you could complain about the market. Well, I was selling houses in 2008, 2009. It was horrible, right? You can complain that it's slow because it's the summertime or it's snowing, but there's somebody out there that's going to buy or sell a home. So when you take the lead and you know that you're responsible for what happens and you take that personal responsibility and make it very fierce, all the other stuff that happens, it's really not going to make a difference, because you're going to be on that path. You're going to know exactly what you need to do every day, and that's going to get you to where you want to go ultimately. So I'm all about the fierce personal responsibility. So I love this from John Maxwell. You came up with the quote. It was a great one. I'm and we just read intentional living, right?
Yeah.
That was basically summed up in one sentence here, that whole book, where if you're not doing things intentionally, you're not really living the life that you're capable of.
No, absolutely not. I love this one. I mean, is there something that you do in particular where, you have a choice to react one of two ways? I know I personally, I just like take a step back, think for a second. I get a little bit quiet and it might be a little longer than I should. That's how I kind of handle that. You have two ways to react. I mean, is there something that you do?
Yeah, I mean, so I've had to make decisions like that here with some of the people here. I mean, you're probably aware of those. And having to let go of somebody, for example, that's a really tough decision.
Yeah.
And then I look at it and, okay, what did I do to try to make this work? And usually there's, I would say invariably, it's not because of me. It's because of what they're choosing to do. And that's on them. I know that there's really no, if it's like an emergency situation, so like it's got to be like a house is burning down, like life or death, someone's in the hospital, that's when you got to react quick. Otherwise, you don't have to make these decisions like right away. And that's a mistake a lot of people make. They get emotionally attached to the decision instead of what can you control, what can't you control, and what's the best way to react. And just taking even a couple minutes to really think it through is usually the best move. I don't know that I do anything in particular. I'm not making rush decisions because I
think that definitely comes with time too. I mean, when I was even a few years ago, you react to something real quick. You send an automatic text that will go out and kind of tear someone's heart out. But now I feel like as you experience a little bit more, you pump the brakes a little bit, take the time that you need to really get a clear thought process, and then kind of proceed.
Yeah, I mean that's. You got to do what works. It's
Yeah.
about how you're reacting. So whatever system you have, obviously, has gotten you pretty far, Jess. So, I
love this one.
Cool. So that's a wrap for this week on Toole Time. I'm gonna go watch highlights of Gritty streaking through the Stadium series.
Oh my gosh.
Catch you guys next week.